I will begin by reading the Indigenous land use statement. We acknowledge the land which we occupy today as the traditional home of the Nisenan, Maidu, and Miwok tribal nations. These sovereign people have been the caretakers of this land since time immemorial. Despite centuries of genocide and occupation, the Nisenan, Maidu, and Miwok continue as vibrant and resilient tribes and bands, both federally recognized and unrecognized. We take this opportunity to acknowledge the generations that have gone before, as well as the present-day Nisenan, Maidu, and Miwok. I hereby call this meeting to order at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Director Carvalho, if you could begin the roll call. Director Carvalho, you are muted.
Thank you. Happens to the best of us. President Burrows.
Present.
VP Dominique Espinoza.
Hello, present.
Director of Communications Carvalho, present. Director of Finance Huynh. Director of Finance Huynh. Director of Public Relations Love.
Present.
Director of Legislative Affairs Garcia.
Excused absence.
All right. Senator Ng.
Present.
Senator Nealon.
Present.
That's right.
Senator Gorman.
Excused absence.
Legislative Analyst Villard Birch.
Present.
CABE Representative Mark Shepard.
Present.
All right, so of the 11 people, it looks like we have 9 here, 9 out of 11 people present. Quorum is met.
Thank you very much, Director Carvalho. With that, we will move on to adoption of the agenda. The agenda went out in an email this morning along with the minutes. So as a matter of consensus, if there are no objections, we will adopt today's agenda. Seeing and hearing none, the agenda is adopted. We will now move on to approval of the minutes. As a matter of consensus, if there are no objections, we will approve the minutes from last week's meeting. Hearing and seeing none, the minutes are approved. So we will now move on to Chair's message. Good morning, everyone. It's the end of week 8, so our second 8-week classes started yesterday. Today we are joined by Dr. Adam Karp, Dean of Planning and Research, to discuss ARC's accreditation. Wanted to remind everyone that VP of Administration Bang will be joining us next week to discuss logistical needs and planning. Joint Budget Committee will be meeting today. Next week is Undocumented Student Week of Action. I believe Brett sent out an email earlier this week with some events to consider attending. Student Advisory Council meets next week, as does District Academic Senate. I believe DAS meets on Tuesday from 3 to 5. And I believe Student Advisory Council is going to be Wednesday. President Shepard can tell us a little bit more about that, maybe during board member reports. Virtual Career Fair is next Wednesday at 10 a.m. This is a district-wide event for you to consider attending. ARC's music department is streaming a few events next week, including the concert choir, the symphonic band, and the jazz band. And I understand disciplinary appeals panel will be holding a training event next Friday. And I know a few of you were appointed to disciplinary appeals panel. So please just let me know if you'll be attending that training and therefore missing the meeting. That could affect whether or not we're able to meet quorum. And I did meet with with Brett about that earlier this week. So no worries about that. We totally understand that that's a committee that you're on. Last week, I had mentioned that I was exploring the possibility of applying to the ISS downlink. So this is the International Space Station for mission, I believe it is 67, which will be occurring between April and October of next year. They have opened up an application through NASA STEM Online for education institutions and organizations to apply for a live 20-minute Q&A with the astronauts aboard ISS. And so there is an information session for this next Tuesday at 1 p.m. So I will be dialing in to find out more. Again, the application is available via the NASA STEM portal, which I recently used to apply for a NASA program. So I do have an account and I will be looking into that. I do understand that this would probably require a little bit of collaboration with ARC administration, both on the technical side and on the PR side. So I will be reaching out to members of executive leadership team about that within the next month. And then finally, SSCCC, or Student Senate for California Community Colleges, Vice President of Legislative Affairs, Jasmine Prasad, recently sent out a petition in support of the Build Back Better agenda's America's College Promise. And so I will be including that agenda in the chat in case any of you are interested in supporting that. BPLA Prasad is a statewide leader, but she's also here from our own Los Rios district. I had the opportunity to work with her last year on the Region 2 SSCCC board, and she's a great student leader, and I was glad to see that she was supporting this. So that is it for Chair's message. We will now move on to Advisor's message. Go ahead, Brett.
All right. Aloha, everyone. Happy Friday. This is week 8, right? Because the second 8-week classes just started, if I'm doing my math right. So it's also midterm time, and I'm like a broken record, but make sure y'all are taking care of yourselves. This is, again, the kind of the stressful part of the semester with not a lot of breaks, no 3-day weekends for a little bit longer. So keep grinding, hang in there. If Halloween's your jam, it's coming up soon. But we're just keep grinding. So one of the things I just wanted to say was I rewatched last week's meeting, your all's discussion on kind of just the environment of being a student right now and working with faculty and some of the things y'all addressed. And I just wanted to give all of you that were there last week a shout out. It was a very nuanced discussion, and I thought y'all handled it really well, and you brought up good points. If you all don't mind, I'm gonna talk to our press information officer. I really want to share that out because I think staff and faculty need to hear that. I know I needed to hear it, and I work with you all every day. So I just wanted to give you all a shout out for bringing up your perspectives, your experiences, your narratives. I think that was really important. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. Stacey already touched on it, but the UndocuScholar Week of Action starts Monday. I really encourage you all, if you can, try to make one of those sessions. Someone who used to oversee the UndocuScholar Center, a lot of the policies are very confusing. If you know someone that may be undocumented, some of the barriers they have to go through to just sign up for classes is much different than the general population. So I think as a student leader, it's important that you kind of recognize some of the barriers other students face. So if you can make one of those next week, I highly recommend it. I think the one on Wednesday I'm trying to attend, but it's important. So with that, Stacey kind of touched on a lot of the other stuff. Board of Trustees meeting next Wednesday. If you've never watched one, again, I encourage you to try to watch one this semester, just so you can see how other boards operate. Plus, they're discussing things that are relevant to you all. So they tend to be about 2 hours in length unless there's a real hot topic. I didn't see one on the agenda for Wednesday, but check it out. I'll put the agenda and the link here when I'm done. There's a JVC meeting today at 1. So for those of you that want to kind of learn about Joint Budget Committee, come through and hang out for a little bit. And other than that, I will say that I am emotionally drained. Those of you that know me know that last night was very intense for the sports ball. So I'm here, but I'll tell you what, I'm pretty exhausted. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Stacey. Thank you, and good luck with them midterms if you got something coming up.
All right, thank you, Brett. We will now move on to public comment. This time is reserved for members of the public to address ASB Senate on issues not already appearing on the agenda. A limit of 2 minutes per speaker shall be observed with a maximum of 4 minutes per topic. No discussion is allotted on public comment. The law does not permit any action to be taken nor extended discussion of any items not on the agenda. The ASB Senate may briefly respond to statements made for questions posed. However, further information, please contact the ASB Senate President for the item of discussion to be placed on a future agenda. Are there any members of the public who wish to make a comment at this time? Right. Seeing and hearing none, we will move on to appointments and swearing in, which there are none today. And so we will move on to unfinished business. Is there a motion to discuss item 9.1?
I can make a motion to discuss item 9.1 regarding virtual office hours.
All right,
Is
with the
there a
motion
second?
made. Yeah, is there a second?
Second.
With the motion made and seconded, we'll now discuss ASB Senate office hours. And technically, Dominique, since you made the motion, it is up to you if you would like to start the discussion.
Okay, I think we should hold them. I think everyone should just probably just do an hour so it's not overwhelming. I think virtual is easier than on in person and less stressful. I also think we should post them on the school website with the Zoom links. But I'm not really sure how that works unless it's an ongoing. I think the technical issue has to be worked out because that's the only complication. If we're all on different Zoom accounts and the link is changing every week, I'm not really sure.
That makes sense. President Shepherd, I wanted to ask you if there were any updates on using G Suites.
As far as using G Suites, all we need to do is create a bill and then be able to get G Suites going. So I'll work on that today to see if we can get it on the agenda. Cape can pay for it, so I can run it on this week's agenda.
That's completely up to the board. I just know that had been brought up at a previous meeting, so I didn't want to overlook that. Are there any other items or comments for discussion or questions or anything anyone would like to add about using Zoom, about using Discord, about sharing out the format?
Sure.
Recognized.
So when it comes to the hosting office hours so far, have we been hosting office hours every week, or have we still been trying to figure out how we're going to do that?
It sounds like we've still been trying to figure that out. I know there were some opportunities to possibly meet in person on campus. I personally have not been doing that. I'm not sure if anyone else has worked that out with Brett. But yeah, to my knowledge, it's something that we're trying to figure out the logistics of, given the novel environment we're in.
And sure.
Yeah.
For all the solutions that we've come up with so far, everything we've discussed within these meetings has been of the pool of solutions that we have. We don't really have much outside of what we've talked about in the meetings. I'm just curious.
Correct. At this time, we've mostly discussed the idea of in-person, Discord, Zoom. Some of the challenges with Zoom are there's only one Zoom account. And so potentially if people wanted to hold them at the same time, we may have to open breakout rooms or something like that. Discord can be an access issue because although many students are using Discord outside their classes for clubs or to communicate with classmates or for group projects, it's not universal. And so it does require a creation of an account. It's a pretty quick process, but it's not just something like TechConnect Zoom that's being used through Canvas and other services that are part of participation in our college. And then Google G Suites is something that President Shepherd has brought up in the recent past in terms of just communicating with the board in general. It could be an option for holding virtual office hours. It could also be for just general communication, email, other things like that. So that's all completely at the discretion of the board. This is the information I have at this time.
Sure.
Recognized.
So for coming to a conclusion about this, right now we might not necessarily be coming to a conclusion on this topic, but just discussing it further and trying to come to some sort of consensus.
Correct. So that's completely at the discretion of the board. If anyone would like to make a motion, it sounds like President Shepherd will be drafting a bill for G Suites. Although G Suites has other features, we wouldn't necessarily be using it for this. It's all completely up to the board.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions, comments? The floor is open for motions.
Sure.
Okay, I heard legislative analyst first. Go ahead, Angie.
Yeah, so one of the questions that I had about the Zoom, so I know that you said that we only have one account. Do we happen to know whether we because I think that we had all been approached about what we would want our office hours to be. Do we know of any potential conflicts with that?
At this time, I don't have any information on when each member of the board would want to hold their weekly office hours. That would all be completely up to you in accordance with your schedules. So if we should start sharing information about when would be a good time, that may be helpful in making a decision about whether there are conflicts with using the Zoom account or meeting in person in the campus office.
Sure.
Recognized.
When I was starting the gathering of information for the bios that I wanted to put on the Instagram, I asked everyone what they wanted their office hours to be, and I have seen no conflicts yet, but not everyone has given me an answer.
Thank you for that update, Director Love.
Chair.
Recognized.
So on our professional Zoom account, what could happen is if everybody has a designated day and hour, we can create a reoccurring meeting with that same date and same time, and it shouldn't conflict with our professional Zoom account, if that makes sense. You know how like we have the student senate and we have the K meetings that are recurring in meetings. Each senator and executive could have a date and time that the Zoom will start. You know what I'm saying? Just like how our meetings are every Friday at 10:30. We already have it recurring out till the end of the semester. So we can just title it, President Burrows office hour, and then Senator such and such office hour for that meeting. That might be a possibility until, because G Suites, we're going to have to use 72 funds, and who's going to be able to pay for that until they get reimbursed. So that's always been an issue of we can write a bill for whatever, we're trying to gather, but as far as paying for it, it might take BSO 2-3 weeks. So I think the best solution right now would be to whoever has a set in stone office day and hour, then we can create a meeting using the Zoom that we have now. And then that just means that we're going to have to give access to our Zoom to the board. And as long as nobody messes with the settings, it shouldn't be an issue. It's pretty much self-explanatory as far as going in there and seeing whoever's office day and hour that is. They can just hit start meeting on their specific title. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Thank you for that, President Shepherd. So it could be set up, it sounds like the way this meeting is, where you can join before host. And so you wouldn't necessarily have to launch the meeting to be able to get into it. It could be a standing link, as is the meeting link for this one. And then that could be shared on the website potentially, along with a schedule of when different board members would be present. That makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
Recognized.
I was also thinking about the idea of a single standing link, because I'm seeing that maybe if someone just wanted to meet with someone in Student Senate, they would just try and find anyone they could that would work with their time frame. So I kind of can you enable screen sharing? I just drew up like a little mock-up of what it could look like to have something that looks like pretty clear, pretty like understandable.
All right, it should be enabled. Go ahead.
All right. If we had something like this, where you scroll down on the ASB page and it's like, oh, meet with us. And then you're like, okay, well, it's Tuesday and it's 3 o'clock. If I hop in now, someone will be there. And if they really did want to like find out if they were looking for a specific one, they could go to the bio page where the more specific office hour would be there. And then we could hyperlink like the image here, and then boom, that would take you to the standing link for just any office hour at any time. And it would minimize confusion among us on clicking the wrong office hour or like going on too early or anything like that.
Thank you very much for that demonstration, Director Love. That's an excellent idea in terms of a static link would be more stable and consistent for student access. Yeah. Director Huynh, I see your hand. Go ahead.
I like the idea that Sydney has, and I was wondering if we could, if we do establish a single link or whatever method of office hours we do establish, could we put this information on the school website? Because I feel like our student population is diverse in age as well, and some of our older students may not be comfortable using Instagram or may not use Instagram in general, and a lot of the time students like to go on the school website to find information. And I found that at times the school website can be outdated, especially at the moment where we don't have a ton of information about Student Senate on the school website. And so I think it can also just be difficult sometimes getting information on there. But when we do decide how we're going to host office hours, I think it might be easiest for students if we were to post that information on the website.
Thank you for that feedback, Director Huynh, and I completely understand where you're coming from. Yeah, there is actually a form where you can submit a media request to the website developers for the campus so that they can update that information. So as soon as we have all of this information organized, we can put in that media request and hopefully have that updated as soon as possible. Any other questions, comments, or motions at this time before we move on?
Chair,
Recognized.
I just want to say that I think Sydney's idea is a better idea, and I don't want to use Discord because I have a hard time. I used to use Discord like a long time ago, so I just have a hard time. It's not super secure either, actually.
That's a good point about security. Thank you for that. All right. Are there any motions to either take action or table this for next week?
So just motion to table it for next week.
It's at the discretion of the board. All right. So it sounds like a motion's been made to table this for decision next week, and it has been seconded. So with that, we will move on to the next item on our agenda.
Sure.
Recognized.
We don't vote or anything?
It sounds like we'll be voting next week. It sounds like there's a bill in the works, and it sounds like there will be a motion for at that time how to specifically proceed, but it sounds like your Zoom idea has a lot of support.
Can I motion to have it the week after that? I have an excused absence for next Friday, and I care a lot about this topic. I would like to be a part of the discussion.
I completely get what you're saying. Brett, is that allowed? Because I'm not actually sure.
Yeah, you can postpone 2 weeks, just like when a committee says we'll reconvene in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
You'll also run into with everyone at the discipline committee tomorrow or next week. So not a bad idea.
All right.
Yeah, that it just occurred to me about the fact that the disciplinary appeals panel will be meeting. Okay. So there's been a motion to table this for 2 weeks. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. With the motion made and seconded, we will revisit this, hopefully with a motion to take action in 2 weeks. So with that said, we will be moving on to new business. Is there a motion for the discussion on ARC accreditation?
I motion to discuss ARC's accreditation, item 10.1.
Thank you, Director Carvalho. With the motion made, is there a second?
Second.
All right, with the motion made and seconded, everyone please join me in welcoming Dr. Karp. Dr. Karp, go ahead and take it away.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I had written in the chat, thank you, Brett, for the welcome. I want to extend the welcome to all of the ASB Senate for the opportunity to speak with you today. Appreciate being here. what I was hoping to do is give a brief overview of what accreditation is and what's ARC's role in it and what does it mean and where are we at and what's next, if that's helpful. So essentially, accreditation is the assurance to the public that the institution or the college is offers programs, degrees, certificates that are have the authorization of the accrediting commission, and the accrediting commission that the ARC belongs to is called ACCJC, and that stands for the Accrediting Commission for Colleges and Junior Colleges. ACCJC gets its authority from the Department of Education, and so it kind of maps all the way up to the Department of Ed, to the Accrediting Commission, and then to the colleges that are accredited by the ACCJC. ACCJC does not just accredit California community colleges. Certainly that there's a large number of the colleges that ACCJC accredits that are California community colleges, but there are other colleges outside of California and also within California that are not community colleges that are also accredited by ACCJC. And I wanted to make that point because when you look at the standards, and you'll hear me talk about them, and when you see the report draft, which I'll send a link to you, Stacey, by the end of today, so you can see where we're at. Is that the standards are broader than California community colleges. The other thing about the accreditation process is that this is reaffirmation of our accreditation. So ARC is an accredited institution. We have been for a long, long time. This is part of the process that occurs every 7 years, where colleges are required to go through a self-reflective process, which is to respond to the accreditation standards that say the college is meeting the standards. The report that we write is a technical report. It's very focused and specific to the 120 plus standards that are in there. And the categories of standards that we're talking about are really, there's 4 large buckets. The first one, standard 1, includes things like the college mission, that there's academic quality and institutional effectiveness, and integrity. So things like what we say in the catalog is also matches what's on the website. So when students go in the print catalog, it matches with other information. So there's consistency and integrity of how we communicate information, and then how the work of the college is tied back to the mission of the college. So that's all about standard 1. Standard 2 has to do with student learning programs and support services. So it's everything from the curriculum that we teach to the support services that support students throughout that process. Includes learning support services, so like the LRC, the library. And so we just respond to the standards to say, yes, we have these, and this is how they work. And upon reflection, this is what we've learned by continually trying to improve how we approach our work. So that's all standard 2. Standard 3 is all about resources. So there's 4 categories of resources, which is human resources. So that's all our employees. There's physical resources. That's our buildings and our facilities, right? Technology resources, and then financial resources. And as you may guess, a lot of those things in standard 3 about resources also touch on the district. So there's a district component in supporting the colleges in responding to those standards, because we're for Los Rios colleges, part of the Los Rios College, the community college district. So that's 3. That's the 4th category of standards that the colleges are required to respond to has to do with leadership and governance. It's all about decision making. It's about our governance process. It's about decision making of the college. The second part is the role of the president of the college. Third part is that board of trustees, and the 4th part is the being a college in a multi-college district. So that's the content of what it's about. In terms of the process we use, it's a brand new process for ACCJC, and what I mean by that is that it's now called a formative summative process. So there's a mid check, and then there's a later check. by the peer reviewers who will be assigned to our college. In the past, it was just you would submit your report, and then practically a year later, you had a visit. This was back in the day when you had to have in-person visit before COVID, where now everything has gone online and remote in terms of the visit. So our expectation is that that will continue to be a remote peer review process until further notice. But what I meant when I mentioned that it's a new process is what that means is that we complete our report, which is the draft is nearing completion now, and then we actually keep the word draft on it all the way until the Board of Trustees acts on it. And the signatures on the report that goes to the Board of Trustees includes ASB, and what ASB is saying is that this report reflects the college, essentially, that this is us. This makes sense for this college. And I know that Mark, serving on the executive leadership team last year, and also Naomi Dasari, your predecessor, Stacey, served on the executive leadership team, and was the executive leadership team that brought the group of folks together that were gathering evidence initially for the report. So instead, although it's a report that needed to be written, the way that we were guided to approach the work was, here are all the standards. Now go collect evidence that demonstrates that we do that. So we've got a governance framework, right? We've got a curriculum, we've got a college catalog, and here's all of these pieces of evidence that demonstrate that we are still meet the standards that we're accredited by. And so all of that was gathered, the drafts were written, and now it's then it was assembling all of that into the final report. I had mentioned those 4 standards. There's also a data section. So there's some data about the college that's in there, in introductory information, and some information about the college as well. But the 4 standards is kind of that's the core of the report. Then at the end of the report, there's what is called a quality focus essay, and that's the place where the colleges get to pick a topic that they want to focus on and write about. And the topic that we picked was our home bases. And so that's something that, and while it's part of the report, it's kind of a, it's part of the report, but it is outside of the accreditation standards. So what I mean by that is when the peer review team reads our report, they'll come to the quality focus essay, they'll read about our home bases and what we're doing, and they'll give us some feedback. So it's not like there's no standard that we're trying to meet in terms of our home bases. It's just, here's what we do, here's how we designed it, here's how we implemented it, here's how we're trying to measure how well we're doing at it, and here's how we want to make it better for students, right? So that's what that's about. The process then is that the report will go to, at the end of this month, the report will then be sent to district at the beginning of November for the November board meeting. And then following the November board meeting, we have until December to prepare it to submit to the commission. It's a digital report sent to them. And then the accrediting commission, or the ACCJC, then convenes a group of peers. So when I say peers, it will be a group of other employees at other colleges that are also accredited by ACCJC, which may include faculty, classified professionals, administrators, usually led by a college president. So that peer review team will come together in February of 22. And they will read our report, they will meet online, and they will give us, they will identify any questions they have or anything they want to know more about, or anything that they wanted to, that wasn't clear, or they just want to understand better. And those things are called core inquiries. And so the college will be then sent a document that says, here are the core inquiries, here's the things that the peer reviewers want to know more about. We'll get that information most likely in March. And I think I mentioned earlier, this is a brand new process. So ARC and the other Los Rios colleges are all going through this process, the process that I'm describing, where there's a meeting in February prior to the later meeting, that's new. So we get that feedback. And the later meeting then happens in October. So it's a year from now, pretty much. So what happens then is, again, that team of peer reviewers come together in February. They give us feedback in March. Then we have, as a college, from March of 22 to October of 22 to provide any follow-up, answer questions. And then the peer reviewers will then have another meeting with the college, a series of meetings that says, okay, you answered our questions, and here's where we're at. And so then the peer review team puts together a report, a preliminary report on each of those standards that says the college meets the standard or does not meet the standard as they said in their report. And then that preliminary report goes to the commission, and then the commission takes that report and takes action on it. And the action will most likely occur, if I'm getting my numbers and years right, January, February, December of 22 or January of 23 is when we'll probably find out the result. This happens every 7 years. We go through this process. It's to reaffirm our accreditation as an institution. I hope that overview was helpful in understanding what we're even talking about and what's our role in it. And certainly I know the student involvement, Mark and Naomi on the executive leadership team, an initial part of the process was helpful in kind of shaping our conversations around accreditation last year, and as we are up to where we are right now. I'll pause there. If there's any questions or any clarification.
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Karp?
And I should say one more thing. And in my role, I serve as the accreditation liaison officer. So if my assignments, one of my tasks is to bring all of this information together and be the conduit between American River College and the ACCJC, if that makes sense.
Well, if no one else has a question, I do. So you mentioned that there were the 4 pillars, kind of these general areas of requirement. And then in addition to that, there was kind of some data involved. So I was wondering, is this data on things like transfer rates? Is this on demographics? What kind of data is involved?
You said it exactly. It's around our demographics of the institution. It's around our outcomes measures of graduation rates and success rates and things of that nature. The research team's been pulling together data for that piece. So you're spot on.
Thank you for that. President of Research Club, like data a lot, so I had to ask.
Great question.
Any other questions for Dr. Karp?
Sure.
Recognized.
So, Dr. Karp, is there anything we as ASB Senate can do to help with your process or help with the process of accreditation?
Right.
Or...
Thank you for. I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you for the question. Yes. So I will share the draft report with Stacey by the end of today. I've shared yesterday. I attended the academic senate, so I shared it with the faculty yesterday, and the day prior on Wednesday I met with the classified senate and had a similar conversation that I'm having with you all today. And so you're right in line with the other senates in terms of where we're at with the report, and we'll share out the draft. We have folks that are working on editing it and bringing it to where it needs to be to have it submitted. We should have all of the editing and all of those sections finalized by the end of next week. And so then we'll have another week to kind of go through it again and before we submit it to the board at the beginning of November. And in terms of the student voice, then I'll work with you, Stacey, in terms of the signature on it that says, yeah, as the representative of the American River College students, this report reflects the college.
All right, so I'll share that information with all of you as soon as it becomes available to me. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Karp, when it comes to gathering this information, what would you say are the easiest and more challenging aspects of the information that you need to gather, if you don't mind me asking?
No, it's a great question. I have not been asked that question recently, so it's a phenomenal question. It's really a matter of currency, as we're writing the report, as we gathered evidence last year, well, time has gone by. And so last year's evidence was current as of last year. And so some of it is, well, let's get the most up-to-date version of that thing, or if that report or that document or that description is current. So when it comes to one of the pieces of evidence was about how the college communicates with students, and in the report it says that the college is increasingly using social media, including Instagram and Twitter, to communicate with students. And so we wanted current postings of that. So our public information officer provided those. So in terms of gathering evidence, sometimes it's we want something that's not from, although it's a 7-year cycle, we don't want something from 5 years ago necessarily, right? But we want something that's current. The Crediting Commission recognizes, however, that we change processes, we update processes, we make improvements to the college all the time. And so even if something is new and we haven't had a chance to run it through its full cycle, we still provide that as evidence. So in some ways it's a little bit, well, we want to wait till it's perfect, but we're continually making improvements. So in terms of gathering the evidence, it's a snapshot in time, and we have to move forward with it being a snapshot in time. Some of the easier things to locate are when it says, does the college have a board policy that says thus and such, right? Like on the students' rights and responsibilities, or academic freedom, or codes of conduct, right, for employees and for students. All of those things are in board policies. So it's just those are a little bit more straightforward because that's the policy. Here's the policy, and then we move on to the next thing. So I don't know I hope I answered your question, but in terms of gathering the evidence, there's it's an exciting venture to pull all of that information together, and then in the report to make it very concise and very succinct to respond to the standards. And again, the Accrediting Commission recognizes that we are an accredited institution, and this is part of our reaffirmation of accreditation. And so that when we say something in the report, the peer reviewers are guided to take that as that is accurate to what the college is about.
Thank you for that answer. Great question, Colton, on methods. Any other questions for Dr. Karp?
Thank you, President Burrows. And Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, wrong button. So when it comes to the task that we have to do right now, on that report, I guess we're going to see where we're at with the task. And the task, from what it sounds like, is we're jumping from one task to the next one, just trying to get all of it compiled in a reasonable manner. Would that be a correct assumption, Dr. Karp?
In terms of the task, in terms of collecting, yes, we're moving towards making sure that all of the standards are responded to and that the evidence is up to date. So some of the work is we've gathered the evidence and we're just linking it now. And in some cases, the evidence is a link to a live website. And so some of the technical aspects of updating the report is that we need to have a PDF copy of that website and attach the PDF to the link to the report, rather than having a live link. Because as you know, as in your conversation just earlier, you were talking about making updates to the website, right? And if we say thus and such is on the website, and then the peer reviewers go and they click the link, and now the website looks different, then they won't know what the evidence is that we were referring to. So for all of the evidence, we need to take a snapshot, either literally a screenshot, or save the page as a PDF and then link it to the report. So that's some of the work too, is we've gathered all of this information, and now we have individuals who are linking, making those hyperlinks all work.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Yeah, Brett, go ahead.
Just real quick, it's more a comment, but this is a monumental task that Dr. Karp is leading. As you all know, ARC is huge, right? There's a lot of programs and things moving, and it's a huge task. And just think, every school you've ever attended has had to go through this. I'm not sure about private schools. I don't know how that quite works, but my wife is doing the same thing with the high school she teaches at right now, and she pulls her hair out every night with the report. So Adam, shout out to you and your team for
Thank you, Brett.
doing this. I know this is
Appreciate
not easy. I see it every night at my dinner table. So yeah, just wanted to say thank you. And my one quick question, does the current 7-year cycle, does it end June 30th? Is that how that works? Or
It's a squishy topic because I have to go back and remembering it used to be, I believe it was a 6-year cycle, and then we got moved midway through to a 7-year cycle. So the last time we did this report was in 2015. It's now a 7-year cycle. And the last time we did this report, we were using a different version of the accreditation standards. So as you might imagine, as I said earlier, that the Accrediting Commission, ACCJC, gets its authority from the federal government. And regularly, the ACCJC itself goes through updating of its standards. And so the ACCJC brings together employees and members of the colleges that are accredited by it, and it brings together to revise the accreditation standards. So as a preview of coming attractions, we're at the ACCJC right now is actually in the process of updating the standards. So the standards that I described to you and we're responding to, this will be the last time that we do it. And it's the only time we did it, because 7 years ago, we were on version then. Now we're on version now. And the next time we go through this, it'll be the new versions. And we're told that in the future, we can expect, most likely, instead of having to write a report as we are now and submit it that way, it'll be a portal that we upload our data, we upload our evidence, and it happens via online submission portal, which then we hope relieves some of the burden on the colleges for writing the report in the way that it is now. Still a lot of work, still a lot of deep work in the college, but the ACCJC, as all of the colleges accredited by ACCJC, are tasked with continually trying to reflect on what we do, to learn from what we do, to use that information to make improvements, and ultimately make the student experience a better through what we provide to students as a college.
Thank you so much. Any other questions for Dr. Karp?
Sure.
Recognized.
Just well, I guess a question, yeah. Dr. Karp, are you able to be reached outside of the Senate and the like, or how would we schedule an appointment with you to further discuss the topics covered in the sheet you're going to be sharing with us about the milestones and goals that we need to hit?
I'm happy to set up a meeting to answer questions. I will say that my time is right now pretty much all consumed with bringing the pieces together. So unfortunately, the timing isn't the best, but certainly if there are things we can answer, happy to do that. And I could work with Stacey, if you have particular questions, and perhaps if Stacey, you and I can work together to kind of make sure that your questions are answered from the ASB. I'm happy to do that. But I understand and I want to be respectful of your interest to understand better and to have your questions answered. At the same time, time is tight right now, in particular, but we'll try our best to make opportunities so that we can connect.
All right. Thank you, sir.
That makes sense. We can always revisit this as a board, have a discussion, and then maybe organize a joint email to Dr. Karp so that he can answer our questions at his convenience.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing and hearing none, thank you so much, Dr. Karp, for all of your hard work for our institution and also for being here with us today to share all this information with the board. We appreciate you.
I appreciate it, President Burrows, for the opportunity and outstanding questions from the group. So thank you so much.
All right,
Have a good rest of your day.
thank you so much.
You too, sir.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to committee reports, although I don't believe we had any committees meet this week. Hopefully next week we'll be hearing a report from Director Huynh about JBC meeting later today. So we will now move on to board member reports and announcements. Are there any members of the board who wish to make a report or share an announcement at this time? Go ahead, Director Huynh.
I know this was already mentioned a lot, but Joint Budget Committee is meeting today at 1 on this exact same Zoom link. So even if you're not a member, you can come listen. There's going to be a short presentation about 71 and 72 funds and a conversation about how to use them and whatnot. So if you're interested in learning more about that, please come. It'll only be an hour at the most from 1 to 2, though it likely won't run that long since one of the only things we have on our agenda is this presentation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Director Huynh. Any other board member reports or announcements? Go ahead, Molly.
Hello. I wanted to give kudos to the caucus. I read over their notes and signed up for the ACS, the American Chemical Society on-campus seminar today, and I've only attended the 9:30 to 10:30 lecture, but it was very interesting. So good job, ladies. I really enjoyed that information.
So Senator Nealon, do you mean the STEM caucus for SSCCC?
Yes.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah,
so shout out to,
that is the full name.
yeah. So shout out to Brianna and Sylvia for chairing and vice chairing that awesome organization. Any other board member reports or announcements at this time?
Sure.
Recognized.
I don't have anything like super specific other than the Instagram. I'm becoming more active on it. So if anyone ever has something that they think I should repost or acknowledge, like I think we did something for National Coming Out Day and Indigenous Peoples Day a few days ago. If you ever see anything, DM it over to the ASB Instagram or my Instagram if you have it. Just another reminder that I will be out next week, so I won't be able to upload the CABE agenda. The CABE meeting. I'll probably be able to do the agendas and still do some stuff for the Instagram, and I most likely will not be here for the meeting. But I'll like read over the minutes and stuff, so I won't have missed anything. But I had one more thing. I think that's it. All right, go Giants.
I just throw that in there. Thank you so much, Drew. All right, any other board member reports or announcements? All right, seeing and hearing none, we will now move on to public comment. This time is reserved for members of the public to address the ASB Senate on issues not already appearing on the agenda. A limit of 2 minutes per speaker shall be observed with a maximum of 4 minutes per topic. No discussion is allotted on public comment. The law does not permit any action to be taken or extended discussion of any items not on the agenda. The ASB Senate may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed. However, for further information, please contact the ASB Senate President for the item of discussion to be placed on a future agenda. Are there any members of the public who wish to make a comment? Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, one quick thing I wrote down in my notes and forgot to mention. Student travel. So I've been working with Brianna. I've been working with Brianna for some stuff with Mesa, and I thought we had a pretty strong argument to attend a conference in person. Unfortunately, the request was denied. So student travel is for clubs, for student leaders, is still going to be really tough to pull off, at least this semester. I think the district is just taking a very conservative approach on that. especially whenever there's a virtual option. So I just wanted to let the board know that I'm still advocating for travel when it's safe, because I think that's an important part of being a student leader, is those personal connections and those networks that you make. So I apologize for not mentioning that in my advisor message, but I thought I would mention that to the board. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Brett. Molly, did you have something you wanted to say during public comment?
Yes, the schedules are coming out in a week or so. Do we know the percentage of classes being offered online versus in person?
I do not have that information. Brett, do you?
I was privy to a little bit yesterday. I don't have the exact percentage. There will be more on-ground classes in spring. However, and again, I'm not an expert on this, it's not my wheelhouse. It sounds like a lot of faculty, both instructional and counseling, still want to be remote. And because of their contracts, you can't force someone to teach an on-ground class. So I don't have the exact percentages. I'll try to find out before next meeting, or I'll send an email out. But it's kind of looking like it's going to be more of what this semester looked like. So, but I will find out. I'll try to get some inside scoop before that schedule comes out.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that's a good question. I've been curious about that too. All right, any other public comment? All right, hearing and seeing none. If there are no objections, this meeting will be adjourned at 11:26 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Looking forward to going to that joint budget committee.